What would wow you, Doe, if a world-class fighter challenged you inside a fight ring, with cameras watching, crowd buzzing, and nowhere to hide? Because that's exactly what happened here. The bell hadn't rung yet, the lights were bright, the ring felt tight, every eye was locked in. Across the canvas stood a man built for combat, confident, proven, dangerous, someone who had won before many times. And then there was the other man. No flashy robe, no hype, no warm-up shadowboxing. Just a calm walk into the ring, slow steps, relaxed shoulders, eyes steady. You could feel the tension shift. The crowd sensed it, fighters at ringside leaned forward. Even the referee hesitated. Then the challenge came, loud enough for everyone to hear, sharp, direct, not playful. A challenge meant to test pride, to force a reaction, to expose weakness. And here's the part that made people uncomfortable. The quiet man didn't respond. No trash talk, no stare down, no flexing. He just stood there, breathing evenly, as if the noise around him didn't exist. That silence hit harder than words ever could. You could hear people whispering, some confused, some excited, some suddenly unsure. Because in a fight ring, confidence usually shouts. But this calm, this was different. So let me ask you, if someone challenged you like this, in front of everyone, under those lights, inside that ring, would you step forward and answer it? Or would you stay silent and let them wonder? This wasn't some underground fight. This ring was built for status. Bright arena lights hung perfectly above the canvas. Clean ropes. Polished floor. Everything expensive. Everything intentional. The crowd wasn't random either. Front rows filled with promoters, veteran fighters, industry names who had earned their seats. You could smell money in the air, sponsors on the banners, cameras positioned at the best angles. Every detail screamed prestige. This was the kind of ring where reputation mattered, where names carried weight before fists ever moved, where people judged you before you even raised your guard. Some fighters here were treated like royalty. People leaned in when they spoke, staff moved quickly when they walked by. Respect came automatically. Others weren't so lucky. Because in places like this, status decides how you're seen, how you're spoken to, how much patience people have for you. The ring might be neutral ground, but the atmosphere never is. Confidence floated in the air, egos brushed shoulders. Every stare was a quiet comparison. Who belongs here? Who's just filling space? The crowd studied everything. Posture, clothes, body language. They noticed who soaked in attention and who didn't seem to need it. Some fighters stretched dramatically. Some rolled their shoulders for the cameras. Some made sure they were seen. Because in a ring like this, being noticed feels like power. And then there was the quiet man. No entourage pushing forward. No loud introduction. No hunger for approval. He stood inside the same expensive ring, under the same bright lights, surrounded by the same elite crowd. Yet somehow felt separate from it. Not impressed, not intimidated, not eager. That contrast didn't go unnoticed. People whispered, eyes narrowed, judgments formed silently. Because when everything around you screams luxury and status, anyone who doesn't play along stands out. Some assumed he was out of place. Some assumed he didn't understand where he was. Some assumed confidence without noise meant weakness. In environments like this, silence is often misunderstood. The ring amplified it. Every small movement echoed. Every pause felt longer. Every breath felt heavier. And the question started spreading through the crowd, passed from look to look, thought to thought. Does this man really belong here? Or is he about to learn a very expensive lesson? That uncertainty hung in the air, thick and uncomfortable, as the ring waited. He stepped forward like he owned the space, boots brushing the canvas, shoulders loose, chin high. This wasn't aggression yet. This was dominance being tested. He didn't rush. He took his time, let the moment stretch. Because fighters like him understand something simple. Before fists move, presence speaks. He circled once, slow, measured. Eyes locked on the quiet man. A small smile showed up. Not friendly, not nervous. The kind of smile that says, I've done this before. Then he stopped, right in front of him, close enough for the crowd to feel it. His voice carried without effort, clear, sharp. So this is you, he said, not loud, not rushed. Just loud enough to land. A few people in the crowd reacted. Some leaned in. Some smiled. They recognized the tone. This wasn't trash talk for cameras. This was a challenge meant to shake someone. He tilted his head slightly, looked him up and down, not rushed, deliberate. You don't look like much, he added. That line hit differently inside a ring. Because in a fight ring, looks are currency, size, muscle, speed. People judge fast, they always do. It's human nature. And that's the small truth most don't like to admit. The crowd murmured, not loud, but enough. The challenger took another half step closer, invading space now, testing reactions. You've got a reputation, he continued. I hear people talk. He paused, let the words hang, but rings don't care about stories. That was the real strike. Not the words themselves, but where he said them. Inside the ropes, under the lights, in front of witnesses. This was pressure by design. He spread his arms slightly, not threatening, inviting. As if saying, show me. And here's the moment that mattered. He waited for something. A glare. A response, a shift in stance. Anything. Because when you challenge someone publicly, you expect resistance. The crowd expected it too. Some fighters feed off noise. Some feed off fear. Some need reaction to feel in control. So let me ask you, if someone questioned you like this inside a ring with everyone watching, would you feel the need to answer back? The challenger seemed sure of the outcome. His posture said it all. Relaxed hands, loose shoulders, no tension yet. He believed the moment belonged to him. He leaned slightly forward, just enough to assert presence. You ready? He asked quietly, not yelling, not smiling now. Serious, this wasn't about starting a fight. The fight was already expected. This was about hierarchy. Who stands taller before the bell? Who controls the energy? Who bends first? The crowd felt it tightening. You could sense the shift. Even the referee watched closely, not intervening, just aware. The challenger took a slow breath, nodded once to himself. Confidence unchecked, he assumed silence meant hesitation. That calm meant doubt. That stillness meant weakness, because most people confuse quiet with fear. He didn't step back, didn't break eye contact. He waited, and waited. The quiet man still hadn't moved. No flinch, no tightening jaw, no defensive stance, nothing. That's when the energy changed. Not loud, not dramatic, subtle. The challenger's smile faded just a little, not enough for the crowd to fully notice. But enough. Because when a challenge lands, and nothing comes back, it forces a question even the confident don't like facing. And the ring stayed silent, holding that moment, as the pressure continued to build. He stayed exactly where he was. No step forward, no step back, hands loose at his sides, breathing slow, almost boring to look at. That's what made it unsettling. In a fight ring, stillness stands out. Everything else is movement, tension, noise. But he didn't match any of it. He didn't roll his shoulders, didn't crack his neck, didn't check the crowd. His eyes stayed on one thing only. The man in front of him. Not staring, not glaring, just watching. Like he was reading something others couldn't see. The lights reflected off the canvas, but his face didn't change with them. No flicker, no twitch. It was the kind of calm that doesn't come from confidence alone. It comes from familiarity. And that matters. Because calm under pressure isn't learned quickly. It's earned over time. Most people don't realize this, but silence is a decision. And he was choosing it. The crowd felt it even if they couldn't explain it. Noise faded slightly. Whispers softened. Not because he demanded attention, but because he didn't need it. The challenger waited. Still expected something. A word, a look, anything. But nothing came. That's when discomfort starts. Because when someone refuses to play the game, the rules feel unstable. The quiet man shifted his weight just a little. Not defensive, not aggressive. Balanced. Grounded. Like the ring belonged to him too. And here's the part people misunderstand. This wasn't restraint. This wasn't hesitation. This was control. Real control doesn't rush to prove itself. He let the moment breathe, let the challenge sit unanswered. That does something to a person. It forces them to fill the silence themselves. The challenger's chest rose and fell a bit faster now. Not obvious, but noticeable if you were watching closely, and the quiet man was watching closely. He blinked once slow, relaxed his jaw. That's it. Small movements, nothing wasted. There was no fear in his posture. Fear tightens people, makes them small. He looked comfortable, and that's what felt dangerous. Because comfort in a fight ring is rare. The referee glanced between them, uncertain, not because rules were broken, but because energy had shifted. The quiet man didn't speak, didn't need to. His presence answered the challenge better than words could. People often think power is loud, that strength announces itself. But that's not true. That's insecurity talking. Real power stays quiet because it doesn't need witnesses. The crowd sensed that instinctively. Some leaned back now instead of forward. Some crossed their arms. Some stopped smiling. They were reassessing. The quiet man's eyes never left his opponent. Not locked in battle, locked in awareness. Every breath, every micro movement. He was already there, already present. The challenger shifted his stance slightly, adjusted his feet. A small thing, but it gave something away. Because people adjust when they feel pressure. The quiet man didn't mirror it, didn't react. That imbalance grew. And here's the human truth in all of this. When someone refuses to react, it forces the other person to question themselves. And self-doubt is heavier than fear. The quiet man finally lifted his chin a fraction. Not in defiance, not in pride, just enough to acknowledge the moment. That was it. No words, no signal. But it landed. The crowd felt it ripple. Because everyone there understood one thing. This wasn't about who hit harder, or who talked better. This was about who owned themselves. And he clearly did. So let me ask you, if you were standing there inside that ring, with someone trying to provoke you, would you stay this calm? The quiet man exhaled slowly, long breath, controlled. Like he had all the time in the world. Like nothing about this was urgent, and that calm stayed. Unbroken, unchallenged, hanging in the air, thick and steady, as the moment continued to stretch. The ring didn't feel the same anymore. Nothing had moved, but everything had changed. People around the ring started noticing it. Not all at once, one by one. A fighter at ringside stopped stretching. Another lowered his hands from clapping. Someone in the front row leaned back slowly. Eyes stayed fixed on the two men. No one spoke, but everyone was watching. The silence wasn't empty, it was loaded. You could hear small things now. Shoes shifting on the floor. A breath pulled in too deep. The faint squeak of the ropes. Moments like this stretch time. Seconds feel longer than they are. The challenger sensed it. He didn't turn his head, but his awareness widened. He knew eyes were on him now. Not cheering, evaluating. The quiet man stayed still. That contrast grew sharper. Around the ring, whispers started forming. Low, careful. Not gossip, observation. Some people recognized the calm. Others didn't know what to make of it. Because most people expect noise before impact. This felt backwards. The referee shifted his stance. Hands ready. Attention heightened. He wasn't stopping anything. He was preparing. The crowd leaned into the moment without realizing it. Chests forward. Voices held. When many people hold their breath together, you can feel it. The ring absorbs it. And here's the human part people don't talk about. When witnesses sense something is off, their instincts activate. Not excitement, awareness. The kind that tells you something important is unfolding. Someone near the ropes swallowed hard. Another adjusted their seat. Someone else crossed their arms tighter. No one wanted to miss what came next. Because uncertainty is uncomfortable. And the quiet man was feeding it. The challenger glanced briefly toward the crowd. Just a flicker. He saw it. The attention had shifted. Not toward the challenge, but toward the response that never came. Or rather, the response that was happening without words. He returned his focus forward. Jaw tightened slightly. That small change didn't go unnoticed. A few fighters exchanged looks. Not impressed, not amused, curious. The quiet man's presence kept pulling gravity toward itself. People couldn't explain why, they just felt it. The lights above the ring buzzed softly, constant, uncaring. Sweat rolled down a temple somewhere in the front row. Not from heat, from tension. Time slowed again. And here's something simple but true. When a room full of people stops reacting, it means they're waiting. Waiting for clarity. Waiting for direction. Waiting to see who breaks first. The challenger shifted his weight again, more obvious this time. Not retreating, adjusting. That adjustment sent a ripple through the witnesses. Someone whispered, "He hasn't moved." Someone else nodded without speaking. The quiet man hadn't changed his posture, hadn't checked the clock, hadn't looked away. His calm was consistent, and consistency under pressure unsettles people. Because pressure is supposed to create cracks. The crowd's energy leaned toward him now. Not cheering, not supporting, measuring. The kind of attention that feels heavier than noise. So let me ask you, if you were watching this from ringside, would you feel excited or uneasy? The quiet man breathed out slowly. That breath was visible to those close enough. It wasn't relief. It wasn't nerves. It was patience. The challenger noticed it. He didn't smile anymore, didn't speak. He waited. And that waiting did something to the witnesses. They began filling the silence in their own minds. Some imagined violence. Some imagined embarrassment. Some imagined something unexpected. That's what tension does. It invites imagination. And imagination is powerful. A promoter at the edge of the ring folded his arms, eyes narrowed. Not because he doubted skill, but because he sensed a shift in control. Control hadn't been claimed loudly. It had been assumed quietly. The ring ropes barely moved. The canvas stayed firm. Stillness everywhere. And still the pressure kept climbing. The quiet man remained unchanged. That's what everyone noticed. Not what he did, but what he refused to do. He refused to rush, refused to perform, refused to satisfy expectation. That refusal became the loudest thing in the ring. Witnesses felt it settling into them. That uncomfortable awareness. The kind that tells you something irreversible is approaching. And no one wanted to look away, as the moment kept stretching. Someone at ringside finally moved. Not rushed, not dramatic, just purposeful. A senior figure stepped closer to the ropes, calm face, focused eyes. He'd been watching the same silence everyone else had, but he saw something different in it. He leaned toward the referee first, said something low. Measured. The referee's posture changed immediately, straighter, more alert. Then the man turned his attention toward the challenger. His voice wasn't loud, didn't need to be, but it carried. "Hold on," he said. Just those two words. The challenger paused, confused but listening. That alone said a lot. The man by the ropes didn't look impressed, didn't look concerned. He looked respectful. That's when people around the ring started to sense it. Not excitement, recognition. Because respect has a tone, and once you've heard it, you don't confuse it with anything else. The man spoke again, clear this time. "You know who that is, right?" The challenger frowned slightly. Not defensive, just uncertain. The crowd leaned in without realizing it, like something invisible had pulled them closer. A few people already knew. You could see it on their faces. Their expressions changed first, eyes widening, mouths tightening. Then the name was said, soft, certain, Steven Seagal. It didn't echo, it didn't need to. The effect was instant. The ring felt smaller. The challenger froze where he stood, not stiff, still, like his body needed a second to catch up to the information. His breathing changed, subtle, but real. And here's the human truth. When reputation hits you unexpectedly, your body reacts before your mind does. The crowd reacted next. Not cheering, not gasping, a collective shift. People exchanged looks, quick, sharp. Some nodded slowly, others leaned back. The whispers returned, but this time they carried weight. "That's him. No way. I didn't realize." The challenger's confidence didn't vanish, but it recalibrated. His shoulders lowered slightly. His stance softened. Not fear, awareness. He looked at the quiet man again. Really looked this time, not as an opponent, as a presence. The quiet man hadn't changed. Not when the name was spoken. Not when the energy flipped. That's what made it real. Because people who rely on reputation react when it's mentioned. People who don't need to. The man at ringside didn't explain further, didn't add details. He didn't have to. Everyone who mattered already understood. The referee cleared his throat. Small sound. Big signal. The challenger swallowed once, barely noticeable. But the ring saw it. Because when silence breaks someone's confidence, even small movements speak loudly. The quiet man finally shifted his gaze, just a fraction. Not to dominate, not to intimidate. To acknowledge. That was enough. The crowd felt something settle, like a question had been answered. People weren't impressed by power. They were impressed by restraint. And that's another human truth. When someone has nothing to prove, it unsettles those who do. The challenger adjusted his gloves, slowly now. No smirk, no performance, just focus. The name had reframed everything. What felt like a challenge minutes ago now felt like a test of judgment. The ring held onto that shift. It didn't explode. It didn't erupt. It absorbed. And the quiet man stayed exactly the same, which made the moment impossible to ignore. So tell me, if you were standing there and suddenly realized who you were really facing, would you feel confidence or humility? The quiet man finally spoke, not loud, not sharp, calm. His voice didn't cut through the air. It settled into it. No challenge was needed, he said. Simple words. Nothing dramatic. The ring leaned closer. Respect doesn't come from proving something. He continued. It comes from knowing who you are. No anger behind it. No pride, just clarity. The challenger listened. Not nodding, not interrupting, listening. And that mattered. Because when someone truly listens, it means something has shifted inside them. The quiet man didn't lecture, didn't explain his past, didn't list achievements. He didn't need to. People often think justice is loud, that it looks like punishment, embarrassment, loss. But real justice is quieter than that. It's understanding. The challenger lowered his hands slightly, not defeated, grounded. The quiet man spoke again. You don't need to test others to know your strength, he said. You test yourself. That landed harder than any strike could have. And here's the human part. Most people push others not because they're strong, but because they're unsure. That truth sat heavy in the ring. The challenger took a slow breath, exhaled. Then he nodded once. No excuses, no defense, just acknowledgement. The crowd felt something unexpected. Relief, not disappointment, not boredom. Relief because conflict without resolution exhausts people. This had resolution. The referee relaxed his shoulders. The tension drained slightly from the ropes. The ring felt bigger again. The quiet man stepped back half a step, not retreating, creating space, a gesture of control. Control that didn't dominate, control that released. The challenger looked around briefly, then back. His voice was lower now. Fair enough, he said. No sarcasm, no edge. That was the justice. Not humiliation, not a fight stopped, growth. People don't talk about this enough, but growth is uncomfortable to witness. It forces everyone watching to reflect. Some fighters in the crowd nodded slowly. Others stayed quiet. They were thinking. About ego, about restraint, about how quickly assumptions form. The quiet man gave a small nod in return. Nothing more, that was it. No victory pose, no applause demanded. He turned slightly, ready to step away, and that's when the weight of it hit. He hadn't taken anything from anyone. He'd left something behind instead. Perspective, and perspective lasts longer than impact. The ring returned to noise gradually. Breaths released. Whispers softened. But something stayed. People would remember this moment. Not because of what happened, but because of what didn't. Because restraint leaves a deeper mark than force. And here's the truth most people learn too late. You don't earn respect by demanding it. You earn it by embodying it. The quiet man walked away the same way he arrived, calm, unchanged. The challenger stayed where he was for a moment longer, watching, not in anger, and thought, that's justice. No winner declared, no loser exposed, just clarity earned. So let me ask you, do you think true strength is shown by overpowering others, or by mastering yourself? And if this story made you think, if it felt real to you, then subscribe for more powerful stories like this. See you in the next powerful story.